All right. Good morning from New York and Kuala Lumpur. We're about to begin an artist talk with Ahmad Zakii Anwar, a renowned Malaysian artist, and on the occasion of the exhibition titled Cultural Ecologies, which was made possible by the Dallas Art Fair projects, and in which Zaki's recent work is shown in a separate room, and the exhibition was wonderfully curated by Jacqueline Chao. But it gives us a chance. I'd like to use this time to look at some of the work that were shown in Dallas, but also at Zaki's larger over the works that go beyond still lives. And maybe some recent works produced during COVID as well. So with that, I'd like to begin. Are we good, Zaki? I'll maybe if I could just start with showing some of the early still lifes, and if you could talk about them a little bit,
Okay.
that would be lovely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this particular still life, I think it is the first of the erotic fruits and vegetables series, you know. It came about because of a relationship I had with someone that was, well, I might say difficult and pleasant at the same time. But you know, we were like two contradictory personalities. You know, she was small and rather fiery, and I was, you know, large and kind of cool. You know, and I always wondered how we stayed together for quite some time. You know, and suddenly this idea of this painting, you know, came to me, you know, putting two contradictory vegetables together, you know, one which is the chili, and the other is the cucumber, you know, and how do I put them together so that they look comfortable, but they look like together, you know, and that's how this particular series of still life started. You know, it started with this little painting. It's a small painting on paper, you know, and I think I did it in 1991, 92, yeah. And from there, you know, the series developed, of course, into other configurations of fruits and fruits, vegetables, and you know, just trying to show how these things about trying to show relationships, actually, you know, how things which, for example, the still life behind you, you know, that long vegetable with the little garlic on top, you know, it's a quirky kind of configuration, you know, and I love this kind of things, you know, and the series, you know, this series is what I started with when I first started painting, and until today, you know, I still come back to it.
So I read a little bit what people sort of write in connection to with your particular style, and very often there is a relation, there is a reference to emotional naturalism. Like it is so clear that this is not about the physical presence of produce. It's about the ephemeral, the spiritual, the emotional. which is not, but then the people also note that you might want to, you might be commenting on a genre that's almost antiquated.
Yeah, I mean, the still life genre is as old as time, I mean, but it's kind of nice to sort of bring it forward into something a bit more contemporary, introduce a bit of humor in it.
There
Yeah.
is definitely.
Art can be so serious sometimes, but I always find doing still lives to be very relaxing for me,
Mhm.
in between doing larger paintings. I always return to the still life once in a while, just to sort of enjoy the simple pleasure of painting, not doing something too heavy, yeah. But at the same time, introduce a bit of wit into the work, yeah, a bit of humor.
Mhm. Is it seen, so very often it's seen as a very as a kind of very Western genre in Southeast Asian context, and yet the
Mm-hmm.
way you go at it, it becomes, there is someone commented on the fact that there's a sort of a very wisecracking Sufi humor in this works.
Yeah, you'll notice that although some of the positions of the fruits can be very suggestive,
Suggested, yeah.
but but the way I compose the paintings, is I try to make it look like it's something very natural, very calm,
Mhm.
um, that white tablecloth at the bottom, can be suggestive of a bed,
Mhm.
um, and this, these two fruits or vegetables, lying comfortably on the bed, you know, trying to depict sexual relationships in the painting is always very touchy, you know. You can either go very vulgar or you can go very subtle, Sometimes, sometimes, the position of the still lives, like for example, if you look at the banana, the two bananas together, or the banana and the apple, they're very suggestive, But I try
Mhm.
to make it, yeah, I try to make it look um, calm and natural, yeah, rather
Mhm.
than making it to be erotic and vulgar.
Mhm. Yeah, I find this one when I was in Dallas, a lot of people commented on this because it's um, I mean, in a funny way, it's a sort of embrace. There is a lot of intimacy about these
Yeah,
works.
and I
This
use
game.
a lot of white space around, a lot of
Yeah.
empty space around. Yeah, so that sort of calm things down, and the
Mhm.
composition is well, quite classical actually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long do you usually, what's the process? Yeah, I know you most often do them kind of one at a time, but it's what's the process for you in sort of decision making and deciding on the composition?
Well, yeah. The first thing I'll do is I'll go to the market, of course, to look at what's available, and I'm very particular about, if I'm looking for garlic, it has to be a particular garlic with a, particular shape. If I'm looking for a lemon or a pear, it has to be a particular pear that speaks to me. Yeah.
Mhm.
And normally when I'll buy a lot, then I'll bring it home and I start playing around with it, see how things can work, and normally I set them up with using pins and needles, just to get them into position. And then I photograph them, yeah, just to have reference for the lighting. And then when I started painting, I'll have the actual fruits and the photograph together. And then I start painting.
Mhm. Mhm. And at the end, you eat the fruit.
Yeah, in the end, you get to eat the fruits. That's great. I can cook the vegetables.
Yeah, so when I was in Dallas, everybody commented on this work as an, adventure of a lonely mushroom. There's definitely some broken group dynamic there.
Yeah.
But it's funny that once you understand this is a work that is not, somebody wrote about your work that it's not about the physicality or material presence. It is actually about all things immaterial.
Mhm.
Then it's very easily translated in the language of intimate or group dynamics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, um, there are many ways to read it. I mean, it's all about relationships. Actually, it can be sexual. It can be anything. So, but the idea behind it has always been, to me, trying to depict how people relate to each other.
Mhm.
Especially when you're in an intimate relationship. Yeah, and I've always believed that that these things can be presented in a way that is pleasant or calm, rather than something violent or confrontational. Yeah, even when the positions are quite um, uh, erotic, maybe, but it's always presented in a very calm manner.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess that sort of elevates it to be more. I don't know.
They become more of a poem rather than a narrative.
Yeah, that's right. I try to evoke a certain feeling. Yeah. Um, Something that is um, what should I say? It's I don't know. These things come out. I have an idea. I paint it, and it is what it is.
Mm. Oh, it's a beautiful work. That's right behind me. Uh, always reminds me of like some of this, finely balanced fruit. Just remind you of how precarious our human relationships are and how quickly they can topple. The
Yeah,
balance is
yeah,
only is,
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
beauty in the balance, but it's also a very temporary event.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes finding the correct balance is not easy. Yeah, I play around a lot. Seeing how we can bring out certain ideas, certain feelings. Yeah, that one behind you is one of my favorites, actually.
The top one,
Yeah.
the top one,
No, the
yeah.
bottom one, the bottom one.
It's funny. I chose this one, the one with the garlic. My gallery partner said, she said, it will, it makes me feel sad and lonely every time I look at it. Um, so I actually wanted, so I wanted to uh, transition to some other works, but also you and I have had many a conversation in which you've also spoken about the fact that any work you do is essentially a self-portrait, that one simple lens to look at your work is to think of it as a self-portrait.
Mhm.
And sort of in this vein, I wanted to look at some of the nudes and talk to you a little bit about how those came about and how they relate um,
Mm,
to your larger, you know, your larger
yeah,
scope of work.
yeah, yeah. Um, the Nudes as a series, actually we had, you know, when I was a boy growing up, I grew up in this small town in Malaysia, and we don't have a museum or gallery, you know, and I've never seen a painting, you know. The only works of art that I'm aware of are comic books. Yeah. But one day I saw in a magazine a series of paintings of nudes. You know, it was a Life magazine, and I think these were probably frescoes from the Renaissance. Yeah, and I was about 9, 10. I can't remember, but this series of paintings just mesmerized me, and what I did was I copied them, you know. I copied them endlessly, you know. I would take the magazine, hide it from my parents, you know. I'll go behind, we had this huge rattan armchairs, you know, near the windows, and I'll draw there, you know, in secret, you know, no one knew, you know, and I just copied these needs, you know, and I found it to be tremendously sensual, I think, you know. I don't know, maybe my first awareness of sex came through looking at these paintings, yeah. And today, you know, when I'm working on the nudes, you know, that feeling has remained. That the sensuality of the figure, you know, especially when I'm working with charcoal, you know, the drawings. Um, with charcoal drawings, you know, what I do is I ground the charcoal into powder, put it in a plate, and I use my fingers to sort of rub it
Yeah,
on
create
the
a
figure.
shadow. I'm glad
Yeah,
that you
yeah, you know.
spoke about it because the surface of the paper is amazing in the way that there are no actually charcoal marks. It's
Yeah,
a
because
very
I hardly
evenly.
use, yeah, I almost never use the charcoal stick itself, you know, so it is basically almost all ground charcoal, and I use my fingers to sort of make those marks, you know. And when by the time the drawing is finished, you know, my fingers would have gone all over the drawing, you know, all over the body. And I believe that somehow you transfer some of the energy within you because of the intimacy of the process, you know. In a painting, you have the intermediary of the brush, but
Mhm.
with the charcoal, you know, it's just your fingers and the paper and the charcoal, you know. So it's a very intimate process. It's not erotic, but it's sensuous, you know. And in that sense, you know, the figure becomes me. Yeah, in one sense, you know, it is, it's like I'm transferring something of myself into it. Um, as you notice, you know, in these drawings, There is no background. The figure is alone. There's absolutely no narrative, So what you see is just that, the contours of the figure and how it is rendered, And I think that, again, like the still lives, there's that intimacy, which is very important to me. Yeah. And also the figures are never in a position of anger or whether he's shouting, never, it's always someone who is reclining, almost in a position of surrender. Maybe in a position of contemplating something, but he's not running, he's not in any form of very overt action or anything like that, So you get a sense of calmness, of something very quiet and intimate.
Yeah, repose.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that series that that you did for Los Angeles was also, there seemed to be some conversation in this between the, the shape of the soul, the physical, the body being the vessel for whatever we cannot see, and
Yes.
and you trying to actually get to show some of this spiritual content of a human occupying this temporary housing of flesh.
Yeah. In Sufism, man is is a part of the universe. He's not really a protagonist. Rather than being someone who stamps his feet in this world, who makes a mark. It is the other way around, actually. You try to make yourself disappear as part of nature. So the idea is there. That's why the figures are never in any form of action. He's not doing anything, actually. He become a component of existence. Yeah.
Have you ever found it, I just wanted to have a sense of how you felt the drawing of the figure, the nude or just the figurative drawing seen in the sort of Islamic Malaysian context, both in terms of figuration, but also yeah, portraying
The
yeah, portraying
figure,
yeah.
yeah. There is that contradiction, in very traditional Islam, you're not allowed to paint the figure, But I think even that notion is can be highly debated, yeah, because if you look back during the time of the Prophet, when he was bringing Islam into Mecca, he was trying to teach the idea of an abstract God, and most of the population of Mecca, they were worshiping idols, So there was that prohibition, I think, because of that, But I think
In
today
relation
that's
to
no
idol
longer,
worship, yeah.
yeah, it's no longer relevant, I think, today, And I find no contradiction at all, remaining a Muslim and doing the figures.
So that's a very beautiful triptych.
Yeah.
So this might be some of my works that mesmerize me the most, from the size of them.
Yeah.
They're enormous.
Yeah.
How have you come to do them? I mean, now
Well,
that we understood the cucumber and the chili pepper, what about the warhawk?
the warthog, yeah. Well, I've always tried to, when I'm doing the figures, I've always tried to put something of myself into the figure, Um, I'm trying to do the same with the animal series, and especially taking an animal as, I don't know, I mean, to a lot of people, the warthog is ugly, But what I'm trying to do is inject some of my personality into it, making it more than just a warthog, making it the warthog, rather than, if you see what I mean, this is an animal. This is one animal you do not want to take home with you, But I wanted to give it a sense of spirituality too,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is trying to inject something into this animal, to make it more than what it is, while still remaining a warthog, So that was the idea behind this series of animal paintings.
Yeah, I think they look both monumental and very anthropomorphic.
Yeah.
Like there is a kind of awareness about his gaze.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And yeah, the rhino. I mean, I haven't done that many animals. I've always come back to the warthog or the rhino, or there's another animal. I don't know whether you have it, the babirusa.
Mhm.
I don't know. Certain animals just speak to me. Yeah. The rhino, I don't know, because of its size, shape, um, such a threatening animal, but when I try to depict it, again, I try to make it more than just a rhino, again, like the still life or the figures, It doesn't matter what I draw, what I paint, but the idea always is the same, to inject some of my personality into it, so that, in a sense, it is me as a rhino or me as a warthog,
Mhm. And so this work we actually have never spoken about, but I wanted, it has a lot of interesting elements of your big canvases where there is a like a three part partition. It almost looks as if it's a triptych. There is maybe a suggestion of narrative or something that could be either associative or linear. And also there is sometimes some of the splashes, there is, even though it's acrylic, they want to be ink, they look accidental, they almost want to be a found canvas.
Yeah,
There is a kind of archaeology that I read into them.
yeah. Well, yeah, this particular painting, a lot of, it is both control and at the same time, I allow a lot of accidents to happen. A lot of this painting was done on the floor actually, where I splashed paint over it, and
Oh,
see how, yeah, see how it in the beginning it's rendered very almost perfectly, and then I start breaking up the image to see how it will react, you know. Somehow you know, with this series, you know, I think it was the beginning of idea of having a narrative, you know, because the previous works were always very just singular figures and the nudes, you know, and the animals, you know, there's absolutely no narrative there, you know. So this later series of works, you know, I'm trying to add a bit of narrative into it, you know, and see how it goes, you know. And this particular painting, I think it's about man and animals, you know, and how we are both in that sense, you know. We have our animal nature, we have also our, you know, that part of us which is human, you know. So I'm just trying to see how it can work visually, you know. This series, I'm still expanding on it. Yeah, I'm not sure where it's going to go. Yeah, this is another one. I don't know, you know, I
I love
mean,
this work. It's so unexpected.
yeah, I don't know. It can be a bit about the relationship between the West and the East, you know, the
Yeah.
fascination with each other. But you know, these paintings, they can be open to interpretation. Yeah, how you want to see it. Yeah, there can be many layers to it, you know. Again, like you said, it's like a poem, you know. You can interpret it differently, you know. You can look at it today, have an idea of what it is, and tomorrow it might be something else, you know. I've always liked about art, you know, where it's not like you're reading a book where there's a conclusion, you know. To leave it open, you know, so that it sort of engages you over a period of time, rather than making it a closed subject.
And so you leave a panel on the right as sort of to create that illusion of a postcard.
Yeah, something like that, you know. I've been asked many times why that empty panel. I say it's thinking space, you know. You know, yeah. You have a very heavy image on the left, you know. It's nice to have something, just nothing there, you know, so that, you know,
Just a
you have
breath,
some
yeah.
room to interpret, you know.
Yes, yes. So this actually, I have not shown any of your early smokers, but you do have a fascination with smoke. I think both cinematic,
Yeah.
because you know smoking is such a, it's almost you know its own protagonist in some of the early cinema. And I noticed it about your works that were, you know, that are more cinematic in nature. But here it is, the smoking again. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the smoke um, acts as a mask, actually, you know. Almost it's not, you know. I've always been fascinated by masks, you know. I have a collection of masks at home, you know, but these masks are cultural in nature. It can be a Chinese mask or an African mask, you know, but the smoke is more of a psychological mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like our thoughts, you know. It meanders. It is shapeless, you know. It is liminal, and that's what I like about the smoke. Using the smoke as something that sort of depict, I don't know, identity, something about identity, or this thing about personality, in today's world, everyone has a very strong thing about what they want, to make a mark in this world, but with me, this mark, this smoke, it sort of erases your identity, making you almost sort of, I don't know, faceless,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
This one is quite new.
I have not seen it until you send it to me. Just
Yeah. Well, this one, the background, if you can see, it's actually the rice, the terrace rice fields in Bali,
mm-hmm.
called Jatiluwe, actually. It's one of my favorite places, it's vast landscape, of rice terraces, The Balinese, they always believe that there's a guardian, that looks after these rice terraces. These rice terraces are over like 1,000 years old, it's ancient. They have a system where it is irrigated and everyone has a share of the water, and there's a temple there where you sort of go and pray to the guardian of the rice fields. I just wanted to depict the idea of something spiritual looking after the field. I had this woman, I don't know, she's dressed in a Western costume. She has very long hair. She could be a local dressed in a Western costume, or she could be a Westerner. I'm not sure. But it was just the idea of this person with a very long hair. My wife looked at it and she finds the image rather eerie. But I find it, again, calm and beautiful. Why the monkey is there, I'm not too sure. But I don't know. Without the monkey, I think it may look too much like the postcard. I just wanted to throw things off. Sometimes I use images just to sort of almost like a subversive, in a subversive way. You have this woman in white, and then you have a monkey next to her. Sometimes the word acts as a vehicle that goes into people's mind and just sort of stir things a bit,
Yeah, and make things that otherwise are not possible in this physical realm. You somehow reconcile them in the pictorial realm.
Yeah. So again, the work is open to interpretation. Yeah.
Oh, that's maybe the last one of the series.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the last one of the series. I did this last year. Again, the same idea, but this time around, I mean, like I said, this series is ongoing, and I'm still trying to figure things out, sometimes ideas come to my mind, I don't really intellectualize too much, if the idea excites me, I see something in it, I just go straight to the canvas and paint. Yeah. And It doesn't really need to have a particular meaning. Yeah? But the idea is always, it is something which is unusual, something there's something a bit off about it, you know. I like the idea that it's well, like a puzzle, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
think here there's like such a clear reference to colonial past in, Asia, Southeast Asia, and
yeah,
yet
you
there's
have that.
like, it's not a tight. It's not like you said, a tight narrative with a conclusion.
No, in a way, I show and I hide at the same time. I
Mm.
show because I'm a realist, but the idea behind the works, is always elusive, you know. Otherwise, I think the work will be boring, if it's
Yeah, no, I think you you go far and wide not to make your work boring. I think it's
yeah.
there's always a sense of sometimes suspense, but sometimes the fact
Mhm.
that um, it's a naturalist work that portrays things that are meant to be material, and yet it is
Yeah,
never about matter.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So something closer to 2020, 2021. With your permission, I wanted to share some of the works you made last year.
Mhm.
Um, on, I guess you just drew them on the iPad.
Yeah, these are actually iPad drawings, Yeah, the series is called Sleepless because somehow last year I had a terrible case of insomnia, you know. I don't know if it's because of this COVID thing, but I don't think so. But for many months, I think for, I don't know, 7, 8 months, I couldn't sleep. I managed to sleep 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, or sometimes not at all. And if you ever had insomnia, it can really be
Debilitating.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're tired. You cannot work. All you want to do is sleep, but then you can't sleep. So I decided to do this. I don't know, this series of drawings. This series of drawings were done in the dark, actually, in bed. Rather than lying in bed trying to read, or I just took the iPad and I have the Apple Pencil.
Mhm.
And I just started drawing. So these drawings are almost, in a sense, automatic. I just
Mhm.
start with a simple thing, with a small idea, and just sort of let it expand.
Mhm.
And they are quite, well, I don't know, nightmarish in a way. Maybe because of the insomnia, or maybe because of the COVID thing, but it's almost like an excavation of my
Subconscious.
yeah, my subconscious. I mean, we have dark things within us.
Mhm.
Everyone has secrets, or things which they don't reveal. But somehow these drawings seems to uh, well, reveal things. Some of them are quite yeah, like this one here.
Mhm.
The octopus. Yeah, I, I think there's also a bit of humor there.
Mhm.
If you look at the TV, there's a guy with a mask. Um, Reflecting the pandemic that we're having. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to, I don't, I mean, for me, I don't find them disturbing. I actually find them humorous, and like you
Yeah.
said, they're archaeological in a sense of, the archaeology of your own memory or psyche.
Yeah.
I also find that they dig in yet another classical genre. I mean, to me, they look very Goya-esque.
Yes.
You know, they're very related, sort of also in the tradition of European surrealism. But mostly they make me think of Goya's capriccios, of some of the Colvett's works on paper.
Mhm.
I mean, there's something very, very classical about the way you set them up.
Yeah.
Like that
I mean,
is
some of them, this one is pretty grim, actually. Do you find this? Yeah.
that is very green, but it's almost a religious composition. It
Yeah,
feels.
because those figures, they are actually touching the body quite tenderly, you know. They're not like trying to harm it or something like that, you know. But notice how they touch and yeah, almost religious in a sense, you know, but in a weird way.
Yeah, no, that indeed is true. Thank you very
Mm.
much, Zaki. Thank you for your time. It's
Most
been a
welcome.
pleasure. I've myself learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
Some of these works you and I have not had a chance to discuss. I was glad to show some of the works that were done that you did last year, because it's been such an unusual year, and I think we all reacted to it, and I still, you know, I think a lot of us feel maybe, um, you know, reflected in some of these drawings. I'm trying to see if I see the questions, but I actually do not know. I think I have to stop sharing in order to see them. No. Oh,
Okay. Are we done?
no, I am. I think I just stopped sharing, so it's a bit of a. So I want to thank you
Yeah. Most
for your
welcome.
time and for letting me share your work, and um, also for letting us the works that we are showing in Dallas. We actually were we prepared them to ship right before the COVID struck, and then we waited for all of these months for them to come
Yeah.
to the United States. So that's the first time that anyone is seeing them, and I'm quite delighted.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you,
Um,
Nina.
Of course, thank you so much. And I thank you, Sarah, and the Dallas Art Fair projects for making this possible. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.